second live session. Let's see who turns up, who wants to ask me some mindfulness and spirituality questions. For those of you that are watching later, obviously skip ahead until somebody joins and asks me anything they want to ask in terms of mindfulness and spirituality, because I'm sure watching me just sit here, look at the screen, look around from time to time is probably a tad boring, which is fine. Just skip ahead. Skip ahead to the juicy parts. Hello, how are you? I'm very good, thank you very much. Thank you very much for for joining the live stream. I can see more people have joined. Welcome everybody. Anybody that wants to ask me anything about mindfulness and spirituality, that's why I'm doing the live stream. Anything you want to ask me, anything you might be finding difficult. I am from Lithuania. I currently live in the UK, and I don't know if you're familiar with my channel or not, but I'm a mindfulness and spirituality guide, so I teach people how to be mindful in their lives, how to find strength in spirituality, and essentially unlock their full true potential. Thank you very much for joining. Anybody wants to ask me anything mindfulness and spirituality, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm streaming. Just trying to connect with people, give them some guidance, give them some good help in terms of how to be more fulfilled in life. I mean, spiritual and religious, they're kind of the same. It really depends on how you look at things. It would be interesting to know what you mean by religious. What are you referring to when you refer to religion? Is it Jesus? Is it Christianity altogether? Is it Hinduism? Is it Islam? What is it? Would be interesting to know. Frog. It depends on habits. What kind of habits are we talking about? If you don't mind sharing. I don't know if it matters if Jesus is gay or not. The fact that matters is that he loves us all, and we all love Jesus, right? That's the main thing. Okay, so we're particularly amongst the other nations because we are not only made up of the tribalistic traditions and customs, but we also have a true God. I mean, One second. Right. So I think the notion of having one true God is universally correct because God is essentially everything. God is creation, right? And the problem, I think, when it comes to God is when every single person that views their religion in an extreme one-sided belief is where the issue comes, because then we start seeing God as a different entity based on the religion that we used to see our faith through. God is the universe itself. God is creation. So God is everything that we know as reality. I think that is uh, what it means to believe in a religion, in something that gives you faith towards what reality truly is. Procrastination and negative thinking. So I think one thing with habits is, I don't know if you ever heard of it. Um, there's a thing called a habit cycle, a reward cycle, I believe. So every single habit that we do, I used to be a habit coach a while ago. That's why I know this. Um, but it's a really useful trick. It's a really useful tool to use habit reward cycles. So you essentially have a trigger, you have an action, and you have a reward. For example, something as simple as blinking, your trigger would be your eyes get dry or sore. Your action is to blink, and your reward is that your eyes can function properly. Same thing could be with procrastination. Perhaps the trigger is you have a situation where you're unfamiliar with the task that you need to do. The action is to feel uncomfortable, and the reward is you're procrastinating. So that is a habit, right? So figuring out what the trigger is, what the action is, and what the reward is can help you work backwards to figure out what the habit is that you need to overcome. Um, if that's what you want to look at habits overall. But from a spiritual perspective, habits are usually something to do with the fact that you're presented with a situation that is uncomfortable. Discomfort means change, and when you're comfortable with an image that you have of yourself, change can be painful. Whereas where procrastination comes in, etc. Um, Spirituality, I don't know if it's another name for agnosticism. Uh, Honestly, I'm not entirely sure what that word means, first of all, but I think um, spirituality, the way we see it as people that practice mindfulness and look at the perhaps Buddhism and stuff like that, I think is just being aligned with the type of energy that you can attune yourself to, the type of energy that the universe provides, the type of energy that everything is made up of, and not just in terms of like electricity or heat or cold or whatever it is. It's just being attuned to the actual fundamental nature of what reality is, the very spiritualism of it, the very energy that flows through us could be called spirit itself, like the soul, you may call it as well. Sonny boy, I'm doing very well, thank you very much. I hope you are as well. Everything that is of matter and spiritual, God the Father created it all. I think, personally, I think the way to say it is that God didn't create it all. Everything is God. Everything that is in creation is God. I don't think God created it because God is everything. He didn't need to create what he is, right? That's an interesting one. Do I believe in the creation of the creator? The way we see the world, reality itself, I think it begs the question, where did the creator itself come from? The creation itself, you could say the collective consciousness, perhaps. The It's called by science the unified field of consciousness as well. Where did that come from? And it's very, I mean, that's probably beyond comprehension, because the actual sense of being of the sense of unity of everything being one is already very difficult to comprehend and actually not just know but feel that sensation. It takes a lot of practice through meditation and all these mindfulness approaches where you're mindful how you speak, how you listen, how you take action. Everything you do goes through mindfulness, and to really sense if there's something beyond creator itself, I do not think it's possible, because when you sense when you're that you're part of creation itself, part of God or the universe, however you want to put it, you sense everything that gives the fundamental basis of reality, not just in our three-dimensional world, but in dimensions beyond that. If you look at string theory, for example, it needs, I believe, at least 11 or 12 dimensions to work properly. And that doesn't mean that that's all the dimensions that we have. There might be more. And attuning to that fabric of reality itself allows us to experience that. So it's it's not a practice that allows us, like mindfulness and spirituality is not something that allows us to go past that, because perhaps not, that's not even possible. Perhaps it's not something that we can even figure out. Maybe there isn't even anything. Who knows? That's very much up for speculation, I believe. I'm just catching up with everything. Frog, how to get into meditation? Um, it doesn't take a lot. All you really have to do, and I have posted a video. I think it's tagged on my um, channel, on my YouTube channel. If you go on it, the video is going to be there. But how to start meditating? All you have to do really is have a space where you can comfortably sit down or lie down, and focus on your breathing. Fundamentally, that's all you need to do. Just focus on your breath, the in and the out sensations that make your belly rise up and down. If you just focus on that and on the pauses in between, that's fundamentally all you need to do. But I do have some guided meditations on a free mastermind community that I have. If you want to check it out, the link's going to be in the description of this live stream. But I would also highly recommend the app called Headspace. Headspace is really good, and it has a free option, and it teaches you how to meditate very well. That's where I started myself, and it really helped a lot. If you want to check that out. Do I know Akarai Ranjish Osho? No, I do not, unfortunately. If you want to share or elaborate what that is, I'm gonna happily look into it. He was a great philosopher. Ah, cool. Is he like philosopher in terms of like the deep questions of existential dilemmas, something sort of similar to what I talked about, etc., or it's so weird looking at a screen and not seeing much happen. I literally feel like I'm just looking at myself and trying to create a conversation with myself. It's so bizarre. These live streams are definitely not something that I'm used to. Hello to whoever joined. Perhaps the question should be not if anybody has any questions in terms of mindfulness and spirituality, but perhaps you have some hardships or difficult things that you're trying to overcome, and you cannot because you keep trying conventional means to overcome them, and no conventional means help. So, how about tell me something that you're struggling to get overcome in your life? Maybe I can give you a different perspective towards it. Summit Rai, yes, that is correct. Buddha is essentially the person. Nobody calls him a god because he isn't. He was just a person. I don't know how much you know about Buddha, but he was this guy that lived in a very wealthy family, and he never saw wealth as a way to happiness and contentment to life. So he thought there was always more to it. And he essentially decided that he's going to go sit in peace and quiet and solidarity for a very long time. He sat there for a very long time, and he essentially just discovered that there's happiness in silence, happiness in stillness, happiness in the suffering that he overcame while sitting there for an extended period of time. Um, yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. I'm actually reading about a book about Buddhism and about Buddha, and it is a very, very complex system and way of understanding spirituality and mindfulness. And obviously, you cannot deny the fact that the Buddha saw life for what it truly is, our reality for what it truly is. Um, but I think fundamentally, if we reach towards a mindful lifestyle through understanding our spirituality, our energies, our connection to reality itself, we will inevitably get to one thing that we all want, which is peace and contentment in life and happiness, right? So, whether you follow Buddha or whether you follow just your own personal experiences, as long as that road takes you to that destination of peace and contentment, I don't think there is a right or wrong way of doing it. And meditation, I think, is more of a concept in terms of how people see meditation. Meditation is just a mindful approach towards life where you fully and truly listen in the moment, where you fully and truly speak from the very depths of your authenticity, where your action is only taken by fully and truly understanding everything that is happening in the moment, just being truly mindful of moment to moment passage of time. That is what's gonna put you in a meditative state and essentially allow you to meditate 24/7. Frog, feeling of being stuck in your circumstances, dealing with toxic partners, how to make peace in those times and not get angry. Right. So, from a spiritual and mindful perspective, again, I'm just gonna stop saying that because everything that I talk about is from that perspective. Because I feel like it's a way to give a lot of understanding towards certain emotions and situations and events. So, feeling of being stuck in a circumstance, dealing with toxic parents, for example, I can kind of relate to that as well, to be fair. So let's start with the first one, feeling of being stuck in your circumstances. So obviously it's very circumstance dependent, but there's two ways about it. First, and the very obvious one, is if possible, you remove yourself from the circumstance because we do not want to sit in a situation that is constantly giving us a sense of discomfort, but not the type of discomfort that allows you to grow, but the type of discomfort that you just purely and simply do not want. You want to try and remove yourself from a situation like this, ideally. If you cannot remove yourself from a situation like this, one thing that is an undeniable fact is that that is the situation that is present right now. And the reason why the situation is becoming increasingly more difficult, regardless of what the circumstances are, is the fact that you see it that way. The fact that you do not see it as simply a matter of fact that this is reality right now. The struggle of accepting the fact that this is reality is where a lot of difficulty and suffering comes from, and unnecessary suffering as well. Dealing with toxic parents is, first of all, you need to be true to yourself. Do they know that you know that they are toxic parents? Right? Maybe you need to talk about your feelings to them, because if you don't, if those feelings sit within you and they never get let out, it can create a lot of pain and suffering for you. Maybe that's something to discuss. And anger is always a choice. Anger is never going to give you some sort of answer to your situation. It's always going to give you negativity that you will never be able to overcome unless you accept your situation and try and understand that anger is not you, anger is just within you. You are not anger itself. Anger is just an emotion that's present within you. It cannot hurt you, it cannot make you feel suffering. Suffering is a choice. Feeling anger is a choice. I'm from India. I know very well I am atheist, but follow Buddha principles. And that's perfectly fine. I am an atheist in the sense that I don't understand what the extreme views of Christianity, Islam, uh, pretty much every single religion. I am an atheist from that point of view, but I completely and truly resonate with Buddha's principles, and I do try to follow them as much as I can. Next, you've been dead inside for 4 years now since my ex tried to kill herself right in front of me. Now she's married with kids and happy, while I'm too tired to try anymore. I think that's perhaps something to have a think about, is that obviously might be an element of PTSD if you've been through this traumatic situation, which I'm really sorry to hear about. Um, I would say one thing is that do not look for happiness. Do not do not look outside to find validation of your happiness. I know it sounds like what you said is that seeing her married and happy with kids means that you're trying to see her life as a validation for how you should feel in your life. If she's happy, not with you, that means you cannot be happy. That's not the case, because our happiness, our true happiness, contentment, and peace comes from within. That's the most reliable source of happiness, contentment, and peace that we can have, right? And especially when you have a traumatic event where something like you said happens, it becomes such a strong foundational force towards everything we believe that it's very difficult to overcome it unless you understand that situations like that are a foundation to a character that we create for ourselves, that tells us gives us a historical list of events and experiences that create a constraint on our lives, in the sense that only by those experiences, past events, etc., and situations that we had can we experience life, not at face value, not at what life is actually for us. So you might be missing out on a lot of small moments of happiness, contentment, peace, joy. You completely forgo them because you see your ex's happiness now as a way to justify a form of suffering, perhaps, as a way to justify that foundation that came through trauma of who you think you are, but you truly aren't. You're way beyond that, and it's a very difficult shadow work. It's very difficult shadow work that somebody needs to do, and I do completely understand that it's a difficult task to do, but if you practice mindfulness, if you do meditation regularly, a lot can change, and I would highly recommend that. Frog, what do you think of mental illness? Why do they present in reality from what do they present in reality from spiritual perspective? I think mental illnesses are a reflection of our upbringing in the sense that they are wounds that have been created by a a lackluster way of upbringing. Most of our illnesses, mental illnesses, come from the fact that our upbringing wasn't to the degree, to the standard that we were expecting as kids. And perhaps it's not even something that you ever noticed. Maybe lack of love, maybe lack of acceptance, maybe you felt like you couldn't go to your parents and say how you feel, etc. All these things create wounds, and if those wounds then don't get sorted as you're growing up, those wounds will become infected. They will grow bigger, they will expand, and they will become a lot more painful. And that is what mental illness, I think, is. It is a foundation based on deep rooted beliefs and habits of protecting oneself through their shadows that are so deeply ingrained within us that it's just simply impossible to snap our fingers and get out of that rut. Although, unless it's something very substantial where it's a malfunction of your brain, like schizophrenia or psychosis, I think that medication personally is unnecessary. And through certain practices like breath work, meditation, being mindful of what you say, how you listen, what you do, being very present and aware of everything that's happening, you can fix a lot of these issues. Or if not fix, you can definitely make them a lot more manageable. For example, my wife has BPD, which is one of the most complex neurological ailments, and she was on medication or on antidepressants, on anxiety meds, and she did not get any better. She was just numbed. But as soon as she started practicing mindfulness, as soon as she started meditating, breath work, journaling, all these good introspective shadow work techniques, she does not need medication anymore. And she's probably more emotionally sound than I am most of the time. So you can, it really depends on your perspective towards mental illness, I believe. Uh, Summit. One thing I would say, when you said your parents want you to follow Hinduism rituals, which you can because of that you are losing bond with them. One thing I would say is that it probably sounds harsh, but we never choose our parents, right? Get, Getting our parents, it's somewhat of a lottery, right? You win it or you lose it. It is what it is. But one thing you need to understand is the fact that if you are getting presented this hardship, if your parents are pushing down generations of beliefs that cause suffering, you are the point at which those beliefs can stop if only you make the choice for them to stop at you. You can make that choice. By doing the shadow work that they were never willing to do, you can end the cycle of suffering and prevent the same thing from happening to your kids. It is generational trauma that's being passed down, generational suffering. And if somebody has to stop it, be it yourself, because if not, whoever is going to be after you will be feeling the generational trauma and suffering that you're experiencing now, plus whatever you will be bringing forward with yourself. So that's how I see it. And it's not dismissing the difficulty that you have to overcome. I'm not dismissing that at all. I'm just saying that somebody has to take that step. Otherwise, the suffering will never end, and suffering will only be seen as suffering unless somebody else turns around and says, no, this time I will see the suffering as an incredible opportunity for me to grow and change and completely and utterly flip my world upside down so that the generations in front of me can feel the benefits of that positivity, of that change on a completely different lifestyle that's more aligned to how we truly should be, which is content and at peace. Franz, mental illness is an illusion. A person is fully capable of snapping out of any situation if he has the correct willpower to do so. Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that to some degree as well. Mental illness can be absolutely crippling, but I do agree to an extent because it is a wound that cannot just disappear with a snap of a finger, right? You cannot just decide to snap out of it, depending on what it is. But it is an illusion in the sense that it is the foundation of our ego, which is the source of our suffering, of our beliefs, of who we are. That's an illusion. That is very true. And we need to work through those illusions to really find our true selves of who we are, etc. So yeah, I do agree to some degree and disagree to some degree as well. But yeah. Um, Anna Rivas, thank you very much. And hello. Adam, hello as well. Right. Any more questions? Anything you want me to cover? Hear my perspective towards? We can have a look at that. If not, I will probably shoot off in a couple of minutes. For those of you that haven't checked out the description, I'm a mindfulness and spirituality guide, and I have a free community where we have group sessions like this, where I could perhaps have a chat with you one to one within the group, and I can help you move past difficult situations and give you a different perspective and understanding of your situation. So it's a completely free group. There's guided meditations that I have there as well if you want to join. The descriptions in the descriptions. The link is in the description if you want to check it out, so feel free. Completely free community as well. Yeah, I can see there's not any more questions. There are no more questions coming through, so I will probably leave it at that. I do appreciate everyone that asked questions. All my information is in the description if you want to check it out. I do appreciate you all. I love you all. And yeah, for those of you that are subscribed, thank you very much. For those of you that haven't, check out my content if you want to learn about more about mindfulness and spirituality. And I'll speak to you all in my next video, in my next short, maybe in my next live stream, whatever it may be. I love you all. Peace. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.